Thank you for watching. Subscribe on Deceived Husbands for more stories.
What do you do when you find out your wife has become an internet meme, a hypocritical one at that? That's just one of the thoughts that ran through my mind as I watched the video ID just downloaded from my home server. It was early in the morning, and I was sitting in one of our data centers, waiting for updates to complete on several servers. Let me explain a bit. My name is Adam Clark, and I work as an IT specialist for a bank with branches all over the region. For the last 5 years, I've been married to Sophie, and until recently, I thought I had a good, stable marriage. We had even begun talking about starting a family, but sadly, that's not going to happen. Until a few months ago, Sophie managed a pretty upscale hair salon downtown. What happened, you ask? Simple: the 2019 outbreak. Sophie's salon, like many other businesses, had to close. Fortunately, I still had my job since banks were considered essential, especially with all the stimulus money being lent to businesses to keep them afloat. Our bank had already implemented a remote work program using VPNs, which worked well for me because it meant I could do most of my work from home. However, there were times when I had to drive to one of our data centers or branches to fix a problem. The first 2 weeks were great. Sophie and I spent a lot of time together, much of it in bed. But the next 2 weeks were different. Things started to get a bit strained. I could tell Sophie was eager to get back to work, and no one could blame her. A lot of people were just as eager to get back to making a decent living, but it seemed like something else was bothering her. At first, I couldn't put my finger on it. She became short-tempered and snippy over little things. She hated the fact that I sometimes had to leave to take care of problems that were normally handled by subcontractors. I couldn't help it, though. The bank had decided to scale back on its use of subcontractors during the lockdown to keep costs down. That meant I sometimes had to drive up to 150 miles to do things like replace a battery in a branch UPS or perform manual updates of software on back-end machines. It was during that second 2-week period that I began to notice some changes in Sophie. For starters, there were several times I thought I caught a whiff of aftershave or cologne when I got home from one of my trips. I didn't use any of that stuff, so I naturally wondered where it was coming from. I thought that maybe it was coming from Sophie, but that would mean she had to be in contact with another man. Nah, I thought. My Sophie would never do that. Perhaps she had someone over to the house while I was gone. I wondered, but she never said that was the case. As time went on and the lockdown continued through the following month, the changes got worse. Sophie became a screaming shrew, yelling at me over little things while I was trying to do my work in my office. Then the region health department issued a series of new rules and guidelines about social distancing, wearing masks, and other things. Some of it didn't make a lot of sense to me, but I'm an IT person, not a medical professional, so I figured I would do my best to follow the rules so long as they made some kind of sense. Sophie, however, went off the deep end. Let me explain something about Sophie first. As long as I've known her, she's always been a by-the-book kind of person. I guess that's one of the reasons her salon always did so well. Everything had to be done just right. She expected her employees to follow the rules, and they did. When the new guidelines came out, she went over them with a fine-tooth comb, making sure we did everything the region said we should do. If I had to leave for a job, she made sure I wore a mask, had at least 2 pairs of latex gloves, and gave me a bottle of hand sanitizer to keep in the truck, which was worth its weight in gold these days. All fine and good, I thought, but that wasn't enough for her. She went so far as to measure the distance between us in bed. When she realized there was no way we could keep 6 feet apart in our king-size bed, she announced that I would have to sleep in the guest room until the crisis was over, which also meant no sex. Are you out of your damn mind? I asked. We live in the same house, and we've been having sex all this time. Surely, if we were going to get the virus, we would have by now. It's only temporary, she said. Besides, you know as well as I do that you can have this thing and not show any symptoms. Look, you're out there touching all kinds of things. There's no telling what you might be bringing home. But no sex? I asked. That's outrageous. It's affecting me as well, she said. I don't like it any more than you do, but the rules are the rules, and we have to follow the rules. But it didn't end there. Being one to go by the book, Sophie decided that we could no longer share the same bathroom or eat at the table together since that would put us closer than 6 feet apart. Donning heavy latex gloves, she split the dishes into 2 piles, one for me and one for her. We had to use only the dishes in our respective pile, and we're responsible for washing what we used. But wait, there's more, as the commercials like to say. She decided that we needed to be responsible for washing our own clothes. Not only were we not sleeping together, but we also weren't eating together. Any day now, I suspected she would have us cooking our own food. For all intents and purposes, we had become little more than roommates living under the same roof, but nothing more. Then the mayor announced what some called a snitch line and a website where residents could report neighbors and others not following the strict guidelines. I understood and appreciated the mayor's desire to keep residents safe, but I personally thought this was probably a bit much. I expressed my concern to Sophie, but she had a different opinion. "I think it's a great idea," she said. "I can't tell you how many times I see people not following the social distancing rules. There's no telling what can happen out there." "Well, I'm not going down that road," I said. "Suit yourself," she said, "but I intend to make good use of it." "You're not going to snitch on our neighbors, are you?" I asked. I considered several of them to be good friends, and the last thing I wanted was to see any of them get into trouble over something like violating a 6-foot social distancing guideline. "It's for their own good," Sophie huffed. "If they don't care enough about their own health and well-being, then someone else needs to." "But Sophie, we have to live next to these people even after the lockdown is over. These are our friends, our neighbors." "Well, then they'd better play by the rules," she said haughtily. "I don't want to see one of us get sick because they were careless. All I'm going to say is just be careful. You do know we have sunshine laws in this region, right? If they find out you were the one who turned them in, it's going to affect both of us, and I damn sure don't want to lose any friends over something like this. If they follow the rules, they have nothing to fear," she said. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I shook my head and went to my office. That's when I realized my wife had turned into something of an internet meme. I had read about this in a few articles I saw online, some from various bloggers, but I had read some posts about them at more than one mainstream outlet. Karens, they were called. One site I read called them the policewomen of all human behavior, the kind of suburban woman who calls the cops on kids' pool parties. Another article described them as having a sense of entitlement, selfishness, a desire to complain. There were other articles that said similar things and still more that sounded like psychobabble to me, but as I thought about them, I could see elements of Sophie in what the writers were describing. Was that my Sophie? God, I hope not, I thought to myself. The next few days, I watched her closely. She spent a lot of time at the window, looking around at what the neighbors were doing. I know she called the snitch line a couple of times when she saw some of the neighbor kids playing in a yard across the street. Nothing happened when she called the first time, but about an hour after her second call, a police car stopped, and an officer spoke to the kids and one of the parents who lived at the house. After a few angry words were exchanged, the exasperated parent brought her children inside, and the others left. I only hoped the family who lived there never found out Sophie was the one who ratted them out. There were other signs that things weren't as they should be in the Clark household. I noticed, for example, that since the lockdown began, Sophie seemed to make an excuse almost every single day to go to Grocery Co. or another store. Ordinarily, I wouldn't notice, except that Grocery Co. was only a 10-minute drive from the house. Sophie is a very organized shopper who generally doesn't waste time in stores. She makes a list for the week's groceries, goes in, gets what she needs, then comes back. It's not like her to just buy one or two things at a time. That means an ordinary trip to Grocery Co. for her normally lasted not much more than maybe 45 minutes to an hour at most. But now she would be gone for as long as 3 hours and maybe come home with a single small item for dinner. I knew there were lines as the store was controlling their doors, but something about this just didn't add up. On top of that, there were days that she would actually get dressed up just to go to Grocery Co. Who the hell does that? Why not just wear jeans and a sweatshirt like she normally did? I wondered why she had to dress up like she was going out. I asked her about it a couple of times, but she would only sigh and tell me she simply wanted to look nice. "Do you have a problem with me wanting to look nice in public?" she asked with more than a little bit of attitude. "Not at all. I've just never known you to get all dolled up for Grocery Co." Making things worse, several times she would run straight to the master bathroom, a room I was no longer allowed to use, and take a shower after returning. Why would she need to do that if all she did was go grocery shopping for one, or maybe two small items? I realized that when it comes to women, I may not be the sharpest tool in the box, but I certainly didn't just fall off the turnip truck last night. Something was going on, and I was determined to get to the bottom of it. Why would she get dressed up and leave for grocery co. every day about the same time, only to be gone for up to 3 hours? Something was definitely rotten in Denmark. I tried to believe her. After all, I had seen some of the lines going into the stores myself, but 60 days into the lockdown, I knew something wasn't adding up. I pulled out my cell phone and called Luke Green, an old friend from college who now ran his own private investigative company. "What's up, buddy?" he asked. He listened quietly as I explained the situation to him. "Damn, that doesn't sound good at all. Email me a recent picture of Sophie if you would, and I'll get started. Maybe you ought to put some cameras in your house and have them stream to that server of yours." "Good idea," I said as I emailed a picture of Sophie to him. "I've got some here that's not being used," he told me. "If you want, you can borrow those and set them up. Meet me over by your office this afternoon, and I'll get them to you if that will work." "That'll work," I said. "They'll be there about 4:00. She's usually back from grocery co. by then." "Gotcha," Luke said. "Your office, 300. They'll be there. I just got your email, by the way." "Thanks." "No, thank you. I just want to get to the bottom of this." "You may not like what you find," Luke said. "I don't like what's going on now," I told him. "See you this afternoon, buddy." We ended the call, and I pondered his words for a moment. I may not like what he finds out, but I figured that sure beat the hell out of what's going on right now. Better to face it head-on, deal with it, and move forward. I showered, changed, and left, putting a note on the kitchen counter letting Sophie know I would be gone until later that afternoon. I met Luke outside the entrance to the building where my office was located. He handed me a box with 3 very small devices he said were motion-activated cameras that could be installed practically anywhere, even in smoke detectors. He also gave me a sheet that detailed the installation process. "I hope things work out for you, Adam. I'll get on this right away and let you know what I find out." "Okay, thanks, Luke. I appreciate it." After he left, I went inside and found that some UPS batteries and several DVDs had been delivered while I was out. Checking my work email and our in-house ticketing system, I learned the upgrades and battery replacements were scheduled to be done this evening after normal banking hours. Looking at the clock, I realized I had just about enough time to get home and set the cameras up before grabbing a couple of hours sleep for the night. I got home and found that Sophie still hadn't returned, so I grabbed my ladder and headed into the master bedroom, a place I had been exiled from. Out of curiosity, I looked in her hamper and found a pair of underwear that looked like they had some crusty semen in the gusset. Disgusted, I set about my task. As I was finishing installing the camera and the smoke detector, Sophie came into the room. I could instantly detect the odor of a man's cologne on her, along with something else. "What are you doing in my room?" she asked. "Your room?" I asked in response. "The last time I looked, my name is on the mortgage, which means I can go into any damn room I choose to, and that includes the master bedroom. You know, the place where you and I used to sleep together." She recoiled from that. I rarely, if ever, talked to her like that. "Just so you know, I had to change the battery in the smoke detector. They'll be doing the same in the guest room and the living room." "Okay," she said. "You don't have to be so short with me." I said nothing and finished my work as she went into the bathroom to take a shower. From there, I went into the guest room where I had been sleeping and did the same. My next stop was the living room. After I finished, I replaced the ladder and went into my office to make sure the cameras would connect to my server. It took a few minutes, but I was happy with the results. The images were clear, and I could hear everything going on through the tiny microphones. I watched as Sophie came out of the bathroom and put on a pair of jeans and a light sweatshirt. I hoped that nothing incriminating would be caught and we could move ahead. After I finished, I headed upstairs to what was now my bedroom. "I have to go to the data center tonight to install some updates on our servers," I told Sophie as I got to the top of the stairs. She seemed happy to hear that I would be gone. "They'll probably be gone almost the whole night, so I'm going to get a couple of hours sleep before I have to leave." "Okay," she said as she walked off, apparently unconcerned that I would be gone. It didn't escape me that she didn't even bother to say goodnight. I could remember a time when an announcement like that would upset her. I shook my head and went into my room, where I laid down and tried to sleep for a couple of hours. I woke up when my alarm went off and stumbled into the bathroom, where I brushed my teeth and took a shower. I dressed and headed downstairs, where I made a sandwich and grabbed a cup of coffee for the road. Sophie was sitting on the couch and didn't even say a word to me. I felt as though I needed to reach out to her, to say something. "Sophie," I said from the dining room table. She turned to look at me. "What?" she asked. "Do you still love me?" "Of course," she said. "Why do you ask?" "I was just wondering. You're never civil to me anymore. You never even tell me that you love me, and we haven't had sex in a long time." Exasperated, she sighed heavily before responding. "Is that what's bugging you? No sex?" she asked. "It has been a while, and we used to make love pretty regularly," I said. "Now we're basically roommates. Is something going on? Look, maybe I'm just tired of being locked down in the house all the time." "Okay," she said. "It's not easy for me either. I'm just concerned that we're drifting apart." She nodded her head. "Maybe you're right. I'm sorry if it seems like I've been out of sorts lately. Maybe after all this is over, we can go somewhere for a nice vacation." "Yeah, that would be nice." Personally, I didn't think that would ever happen, but I went along with it. "Look, I'm going to be gone for most of the night to get these updates done. I'll call you when I'm ready to come home." "Okay," she said. "Thanks." She went back to watching her program. After I finished eating, I went into the office, checked to make sure my server was doing its thing, grabbed my briefcase, and locked the door after I left. I looked at Sophie as I opened the front door to leave the house. "I'm headed out now. Love you." She didn't even bother to look up at me. "Yeah, me too," she said. I stood there for a couple of moments and realized that was all I was going to get from her. There used to be a time when she would send me off with a hot kiss, but I guess those days are over, I thought as I nodded my head. "Goodbye, Sophie," I said, closing the door behind me. I got in my truck and headed out, my heart heavy. It took a little over an hour for me to reach the data center. I went in, replaced the UPS batteries, and started the upgrade script. I knew this would take several hours to complete, so I grabbed some coffee and sat down at the desk. I pulled out my personal laptop, connected to the network, and logged into my home server. I found several videos from earlier, so I checked them out. There wasn't anything unusual there, just short videos of me sleeping, Sophie going into the front room, that sort of thing. I noticed that several times she pulled out her cell phone and was busy texting someone. I hadn't had a chance to check her phone since she always kept it with her, so I had no idea who she was texting. One short video showed Sophie in the master bedroom. She was holding a wedding photo that normally sat on the dresser. From the timestamp on the video, I knew this happened as I slept. She looked at the photo wistfully, then set it face down on the dresser before she left the room. There were a couple of other videos. One showed me getting ready for work, and the other showed our discussion before I left. I couldn't help but notice that aside from her heavy sighing, Sophie showed very little emotion during that discussion, and she showed even less when I told her goodbye. It got very interesting after I closed the door, however. She looked at the door for a few moments, then got up to see if I had left. Once she was convinced I was gone for the evening, she pulled out her phone and made a call. Unfortunately, I could only hear one side of the call. "Hey, lover," she said, smiling. "Yeah, gone. Probably all night. You ready to come over and play in my bed?" "Of course." Laughing. "And anywhere else you want." "You want me to do what?" "Really? Okay, just for you. Hurry and get over here. I'm getting excited just thinking about you." "Yeah. Okay. Love you, stud muffin. See you soon." What the hell? I asked myself. It was now clear to me that Sophie no longer loved me and had fallen in love with someone else. As I watched, Sophie went upstairs to the master bedroom. She picked up our wedding photo and giggled as she looked at it. "Don't you wish you were here so you could watch me?" she asked before putting the picture back face down. The next video showed her back in the front room, standing naked as she looked out the window. A few minutes later, a car pulled into the driveway. She opened the door and stood naked as a man stepped onto the porch. He smiled and took her in his arms, kissing her deeply. She responded. It had been a long time since she had even touched me, let alone given me a kiss like this. I felt as if my heart was being ripped out of my chest. They came into the room, and I got a good look at the man's face. He looked somewhat familiar, but I couldn't quite place him. His dark hair was well cut and combed back, making him look like something you'd see in those pictures they often put up in hair salons. That's when it hit me. He was a hairdresser who worked in the salon Sophie managed. I vaguely remembered meeting him once before when I stopped by to see her. So, is the loser gone all night? He asked her. Yep, all night, she said with a huge smile. Come on, let's go upstairs and have some fun. I'm so excited for you right now. Then they ran up the stairs into what used to be our master bedroom. The video ended, and I saw another had just been saved to the server, so I opened it. This video picked up where the previous one ended. Sophie and her lover were in the bedroom, and she had gotten on the bed. It's not our marital bed anymore, she said. I kicked him out of the bedroom just like you suggested. This is my bed now, or better yet, our bed. Yours and mine. That explained a lot, I thought. They obviously had planned this all out. Too bad the chicken isn't here to watch a real man having fun with you, he said with a wicked grin. She laughed. Maybe later. Forget about him right now. I need you to be with me. I can't begin to describe the emotions that went through me as I watched and listened to them degrade and humiliate me in my own house, in what I thought was my marital bed. Part of me was sad for the loss of what I once thought was a beautiful thing. Another part of me was furious with blind, seething hate and rage. After all the years I had given her, supported her, and took care of her, this was the thanks I get? It was probably a good thing I wasn't there when this was going on, I thought. I would probably have gotten my gun and killed both of them where they lay, but that would only see me put in jail, and I didn't want that. It's amazing how much a person's feelings can change in such a short time. At this moment, I didn't see Sophie as my soulmate. She certainly wasn't my wife. For that matter, I had difficulty even thinking of her as a woman. She was just a self-absorbed. I had to get away from this before I went crazy. I stopped the video and left the data center. I drove to a convenience store and bought a couple of packs of cigarettes and a six-pack of Coke. I would have bought some beer, but I still had a job to finish, and I would need to be able to drive back to the house. It had been years since I smoked, but I felt I needed one before I completely lost it. I sat in the truck and smoked a cigarette before heading back into the data center, thinking about what I needed to do. Divorce was a no-brainer, but it wouldn't be nearly enough. I had to get some measure of revenge on Sophie and her lover for what they were putting me through. But what could I do that wouldn't land me in jail? I went back in and checked on the updates, then sat back down to finish watching the video. I've read stories where guys talk about getting excited at seeing their sexy wives with other men. That didn't happen to me, thank goodness. Sure, Sophie was a sexy woman, but what I felt watching them wasn't excitement. It was pure hatred. What was worse than watching the two of them in the master bedroom that used to be just for Sophie and me was listening to what they were saying. You want me to get you pregnant? He asked. Yes, baby, get me pregnant, she said. What about your loser husband? He asked. What about him? She asked derisively. They'll make him think it's his, and he'll have to raise it. I like that idea, the man said. Here it comes. Removing her rings, she put them in the palm of her hand. God, you're wicked, he told her. That's why you love me, isn't it? She asked. I yelled. I cried. I raged. I wanted to throw my laptop against the wall. I couldn't believe the woman I had promised to love to the end was doing this to me, to us. I swore that whatever it took, I would get vengeance on them both. As I watched the video, the two were cuddled up in what used to be my bed. So, tell me, Sophie, he said, why don't you just divorce the loser and come live with me? Oh, come on, she said. You think I'll give this up to live in that little trailer you call a home? Look, I love you and I love our time together, but I can't afford to divorce him right now. I need the money. So, I thought that's all I am to her now, a meal ticket. Well, to hell with that noise. I stopped the video and went online to check our account. I did all the usual stuff, opened a new account in my name only and put half of all our money into it, then paid off and canceled our joint credit cards. I also went into our online HR page and took her name off my retirement account. I would have taken her off my insurance but was unable to because it wasn't open enrollment, and I didn't have a final divorce decree according to the rules HR had laid out for us. Other than that, I did everything I could to separate her from me financially. One of the benefits of working for the same bank that held our account. I started the video back up. So, are you telling me that once this lockdown is over and we're back to work, you'll divorce him? He asked. Yeah, by then I'll have more money saved up, and I can file for mental cruelty or something. I'm sure I can find a shark hole ruin him. Not if I find one first. You? I thought. This looks like it's coming back to life. I couldn't take much more of this and fast-forwarded through this part of the video. After he had been with her, when they finished, they laid back down in the bed and snuggled some more. So much for social distancing, I thought. After a while, they went to sleep, and it looked as though the night's festivities were over. I checked on the status of the updates. I figured they would be done in about an hour, so I sat back down and thought about what I should do. After what I heard tonight, there was no way I could ever imagine being in the same house as Sophie. I had seen and heard enough and felt there was no need for Luke to follow Sophie, so I came up with an idea. I spliced several pieces of video into one clip and sent the video I made to every one of her family members, explaining that I would be getting a divorce and filing under adultery. By then, the updates were complete, so I tested the systems and verified everything was working as it should. I packed my stuff up and headed back out to the truck, deciding to crash Sophie's little party. I checked the time and found that it was only 1:00 a.m. That meant it would be about 4:00 by the time I got home. Sophie wasn't expecting me until much later. Good, I thought with a wicked smile. I got in the truck and lit up a cigarette, then headed out. It was actually 2:55 by the time I got home, so I turned the headlights off so as not to wake Sophie or her lover. I parked in the driveway next to her car, not bothering to open the garage door. I went into the house, turned off the security system, and put my laptop bag in my office. Then I slowly crept up the dark stairway and walked through the open master bedroom door. They were both sound asleep, their arms around each other. How touching, I thought. I stepped into the room and turned the overhead light on. Get up, get up, get up, I shouted, the way my drill instructors did when I was in boot camp. Surprised and scared, they jumped up out of the bed, not knowing what was going on. What the hell is going on in here? I yelled at the top of my voice. Oh my God, Sophie said when she realized I was the one who woke them up. Adam, what are you doing home? You were supposed to be at work all night. I got finished early and wanted to see my loving wife, I sneered. But what do I find instead? I find my wife with her lover in my bed. Sophie's lover looked at me, scared. Look, man. I'm sorry, he stammered. I glared at him. Just get your clothes on and get the hell out of my house. I roared. You have 30 seconds, and 25 of them are already gone. Move. He ran around like a chicken with his head cut off, looking to find his clothes. I turned to Sophie. Maybe I should call the mayor's snitch line and report you for violating social distancing guidelines, I told her. Pack your stuff and get the hell out. Adam, she begged. Please, it's not what it looks like. I laughed in her face. Oh, please, spare me your crap, I said. You love him? Go live with him. But she stammered. No buts, I said. Get out now. I'm no longer your meal ticket. You want to have children? Fine, you go stay with him in his trailer. I'm seeing a lawyer about a divorce as soon as I can. Now get out. Don't make me repeat myself. Wait, you know about? She began. I saw and heard everything you two said and did tonight, I said. Right now, you make me want to puke. She started crying as the realization of what I said hit her. Stop crying, I growled. Pack your things and get out. Whatever you leave behind is either getting burned or thrown away. You can't mean that, she cried. Oh yes, I can, and I do, I told her. I loved you exclusively, and you repaid me with lies and cheating on me with that sack of crap. Right now, I hate your guts with every fiber of my being. I never want to see your scuzzy face again as long as I live. Is that clear enough for you? Crying from my verbal assault, she got out of bed and began packing. Her lover was still trying to get his clothes on, so I decided to enlist his assistance. Help her pack, loser, I ordered. What? He asked. Are you stupid and deaf? I said. You can help her pack. They'll bring up some garbage bags, and you can start throwing her stuff in them. You're part of this show, so you can do your part. I went downstairs and came back with a handful of large plastic trash bags. I threw them on the bed. Now get to it. You have 5 minutes. After that, everything else is getting tossed or burned. A few minutes later, Sophie and her lover carried out several bags of her belongings, placing them in their respective vehicles. I found Sophie's purse and pulled off her house key, then grabbed the garage door opener out of her car. I removed my wedding ring and put it in Sophie's hand. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. Don't you want this? She asked. I shook my head. No, not anymore. Now go. I assume you'll be living at his trailer, so we'll have you served there. Just leave me the address so I can give it to my attorney. She wrote an address down on a piece of paper and gave it to me. I'm sorry, she said. Yeah, I told her, you are. And I'm sorry I ever laid eyes on you. Crying, she left the house. I watched as she and her lover drove off. I closed the door and locked it. Exhausted, I laid down on the couch and fell asleep. It was almost 9:00 a.m. when I woke up, realizing I had a lot to get done. I called my boss and asked for the week off, telling him what was going on. No problem, Adam. You've got a ton of comp time coming to you anyway. Take what you need, and thanks for getting those updates finished last night. You're welcome, I said, ending the call. I then called Luke to let him know there was no need for him to follow Sophie, relating the events from earlier in the morning. Damn, I'm sorry to hear that, Adam, but I'm glad you found out when you did. Let me know if there's anything I can do for you. Thanks, I said. I'll get your equipment back to you, and we can settle up. We ended the call, and I refreshed my coffee. I began searching for a family law attorney and found one who worked from his home. I called, and he agreed to meet with me through some kind of teleconferencing system his firm had set up. After I got the email with the details, I signed in, and we were soon chatting face-to-face between our living rooms. I explained what happened and what I wanted, and he responded by telling me the divorce laws in our region. It turned out that we lived in a no-fault region, and I couldn't file under adultery. Her adultery, however, could and probably would be used to prevent her from getting any alimony or support. The downside was that I would probably have to sell the house and give her half the proceeds. That was fine with me since I really didn't want to stay in the place anymore. They'll get started on the paperwork and have her served in a couple of days, he said. I gave him all the pertinent information, her address, place of business, that sort of thing. Someone from our office will contact you for my retainer, he said. They'll be in touch. I thanked him, and we ended the call. I pulled the cameras, then began gathering up what Sophie had left behind, putting it into 3 piles, one for the burn pit, another to toss out, and a third for goodwill. It was nearly noon when my phone rang. I looked and saw that it was her sister, Olivia. Olivia was a couple of years younger than Sophie and was also out of work since the restaurant she worked for closed down. Adam, what's this about you tossing Sophie out in the middle of the night? She asked. I could tell she was quite angry. Did she tell you why I threw her out? I asked. She said it was just a little misunderstanding. Check your email, I told her. Once you see what I sent, you'll know why. Goodbye, Olivia. I ended the call before she could respond. A few minutes later, I got another call, this time from her parents. I always liked her parents, and we got along quite nicely. Adam, I got a strange call from Sophie. Her father, Bill, said. She tells us you threw her out of the house at 3:00 in the morning. Is that true? Yes, Bill, it is. Why in the world would you do something like that? He asked. Did you check your email? I asked him. No, I didn't, he told me. Check your email, and you'll know why. Talk to you later, Bill. Give my best to Linda. Linda was Sophie's mother, and I loved her like my own mother. I kept working, and the piles were growing as I sorted through all of Sophie's stuff. About an hour later, I got another call. It was Olivia. I answered my phone. Adam, I just watched that video, and I'm so sorry. She made it sound like you were being unreasonable and tossed her out for no good reason. Do you know who that is she's with? She asked. Yeah, that's Brian, she said. He worked at Sophie's hair salon before it was closed. She confessed to me that they've been an item for quite a while, even before the lockdown. Wonderful, I told her. Listen, if you want to pick up some of her things, you'd better hurry. I'm sorting through what she has here. A lot of it's going to Goodwill. The rest is getting thrown out or getting burned. Burned? She asked, shocked. Yeah, like her wedding dress. All of our photos, that kind of thing. You're going to burn her wedding dress? She asked. Really? Absolutely. Please don't burn anything or throw anything away until I get there. Please, she begged. Like I said, you'd better hurry, I told her. They'll be right over, she said. I stopped and went out back for a cigarette and a cup of coffee. About the time I sat down and lit up, my phone rang again. Damn, won't these people just leave me alone? I asked myself. I looked and saw it was Bill, so I answered, "Hey, Bill. Adam, I owe you a huge apology. I saw that video, and I've never been more disgusted in my entire life. Those were just the lowlights if you know what I mean," I said. "I have a lot more of that crap. We've seen all we need to. Linda's a mess over all this. We let Sophie know in no uncertain terms she's not welcome here anymore. Look, Adam, we both think the world of you. If there's anything you ever need from us, just call, okay? Thanks, Bill. I appreciate that." We ended the call, and I went back inside. By then, Olivia was knocking on the door. I opened it and saw her standing there in a pair of short shorts and a crop-top t-shirt. "Hi, Olivia. Come on in." She came into the house, flipping her long blonde hair back over her shoulders. "I'm sorting her stuff upstairs if you want to come up and go through it." "That sounds good," she responded. I picked a trash bag and handed it to her. She smiled as she took it. "What is this? What passes for luggage in your house now?" she asked. I laughed. For her, yeah. And she's lucky I'm using a clean bag. It was her turn to laugh. We went upstairs, and she looked through the piles of stuff, tossing quite a bit into the bag. Needless to say, she wasn't very careful with it. She saw Sophie's rings sitting on her nightstand. "She left her rings here?" Olivia said. I nodded my head as she reached out for them. "You might want to disinfect them first," I said. That's gross. No way am I touching those things. What are you going to do with them?" I shrugged my shoulders. "I don't know. I was thinking about cleaning them, then selling them at a pawn shop or something. They're worthless to me, and they obviously don't mean anything to Sophie anymore." "Obviously," she said. "Well, I'll let you grab what you want. I'm going out back for a bit. Feel free to come out if you feel the need to talk or something." "Okay," she said. I warmed up my coffee and went out back for another cigarette. A few minutes later, Olivia stuck her head out. "Mind if I join you?" "Not at all," I said. She came out and sat in a chair opposite me. "I didn't know you smoked." "I quit some time ago. Started back up last night after I saw that video. Nasty habit. Mind if I join you? It's a free country." I was surprised that she smoked as well. She pulled a pack out of her purse, and I offered her a light. She sat back after and looked at me before speaking. "My sister is an idiot. I can't believe she treated you as badly as she did." "You don't know the half of it," I said, telling her how Sophie kept us apart, claiming it was because of the virus. In reality, though, it was meant to keep me away from her. "She's not just an idiot, she's a stupid idiot," Olivia said. After a few moments, I saw she started to seduce me the way she sat. A small smile began to creep over her face. "You know, I've had a crush on you from the moment I first met you." "Really?" I asked. Of course. I knew she was always quite flirty with me whenever we were together. Accidentally, I knew it irritated Sophie to no end, but I never did anything to encourage her. For that matter, I never did anything to discourage her either. "I've always thought the world of you as well," I said. She smiled and said, "I'm not my sister." "I know." "No, you don't understand," she said. "Yeah, we grew up together, but that's about it. She's always been self-centered and more than a bit narcissistic. I can't tell you how many times she got me in trouble with our parents, then she'd go and do the same exact thing. To be honest, I'm surprised the two of you lasted as long as you did." "Really?" I asked. "Why?" "She was always changing boyfriends when we were younger," Olivia said. "She'd hook up with a guy, and it would last maybe a few months before she was hooking up with someone else. Every other guy she had dumped her like a sack of potatoes. I wish I had known that before I married her. I thought about warning you back when I first met you." "Why didn't you?" I asked. "I almost did several times, but I could tell you were head over heels in love with her. I didn't think you'd believe me." I nodded my head in agreement. "You're probably right," I said. "I did love her once, and I probably would have thought you were just trying to split us up so you could move in." "I did warn her, though," Olivia said. "I told her if she ever hurt you in any way, I would make her pay. She promised me she would never hurt you or treat you the way she did her other boyfriends." "Have you thought about revenge?" "It's crossed my mind," I said. "I spoke to a divorce attorney this morning, and he started the paperwork." "But is that all?" she asked. "Isn't there something else you'd like to do?" I knew what she was hinting at, but I wasn't about to take the bait. "Not yet, anyway." "Yeah, but I'd end up in jail." She laughed. That's not what I had in mind. Her free hand started pleasing herself. I could probably have her right then and there, but it was too soon. I'm still legally married, I said. The divorce papers haven't even been served yet. She smiled before she responded. Good answer. That's okay. I've waited 4 years, so I guess I can wait a bit longer. Are you staking a claim or something? I asked. She laughed. Damn right I am, she said. Sophie screwed up big time. But like I said, I'm not my sister. I'm strictly a one-man woman, always have been. I smiled back at her. That's good to hear, but I'm a bit surprised. I figured you'd have men lining up. Nah, most of the guys I know are either jerks stuck on themselves or mama's boys. That's a shame, I said. Not really, she told me. Truth is, none of them can hold a candle to you. I just want to know one thing. What's that? Is there any chance that you'll take her back? She asked. I shook my head. No, none whatsoever. She burned that bridge good last night. Too bad for her, I guess, Olivia said. She looked at her watch. I've got to get going. I promised Sophie I'd have her stuff back to her this afternoon. Is there anything you want me to tell her? Tell her I spoke to a lawyer this morning, and she can expect to be served in a couple of days or so. I'll tell her. Standing up, I said, I really am sorry about what she did to you. Thanks. It'll be okay, though, I know. Wrapping her arms around me, she said, let me give you something to help take your mind off things. I started to say something but found myself getting the deepest kiss from the softest pair of lips I have ever encountered. Are you on Skype? She asked when she backed away. Yes, I am. I wrote down my Skype handle and handed it to her. Good. I'll meet you on Skype this evening, and I'll let you know how it went. Okay? Yeah, I look forward to that, I said. I helped her carry the rest of Sophie's things to her car and kissed her after she got in. I watched her drive away, then went back inside. I hoped I wasn't jumping out of the frying pan into the fire, but I didn't see any deception on her part at all. I grabbed another soda and started for the back door when my phone rang again. This time it was Sophie. What the hell did she want? I wondered. What do you want? I asked when I answered the call. You scumsucker, she screamed. How could you do that to me? Do what? You know what? She yelled. You sent that horrible video to my parents and my sister. Now they all hate me. Why did you do that? Why do you think? 304. I asked in response. As I recall, it was you who cheated on me. It was you who lied to me and stabbed me in the back. I loved you exclusively for years, and you do this to me? You actually thought you could get me to raise Brian's child? Screw you in that. Stop calling me that, she said. I knew she hated that word, which is why I used it, but I didn't care. Why? Isn't that what you are? A worthless, no good, lying, cheating face it. That's all you've ever been. And that's all you'll ever be. We're finished. I spoke to a lawyer this morning, and you can expect to be served with divorce papers in a couple of days or so. Meanwhile, I don't want to hear or see you ever again. Adam, please, I'm begging you, she cried. I'm so sorry for what I did. We can work through this. No, we can't. You destroyed me with your cheating, and am through putting up with your crap. You made your choice. Now you get to deal with it. Goodbye, and I'm serious when I say I hope to God I never see you alive ever again. I thought I heard a sob, but I frankly didn't care. I ended the call and instantly blocked her number. Later that evening, Olivia contacted me on Skype. From what she told me, Sophie wasn't too thrilled with the condition her things were in. Too bad, I thought. I told Olivia about Sophie's call, and she had a good laugh. It serves her right, she said. We talked for a bit longer before we ended the call. I thanked her for everything she had done and let her know it meant a lot to me. It's my pleasure, she said sweetly. I'll be in touch. We said our goodbyes, and I found myself fantasizing about being with Olivia. The next day, I finished sorting through the rest of Sophie's things. I cleaned her rings, then took the pile of crap going to Goodwill and loaded it into the truck after stuffing it all into trash bags. After I dropped off the bags, I stopped at a pawn shop and sold her rings, getting a fraction of what I had paid for them 5 years ago. Oh well, I thought. If Sophie wants them, she can go buy them back. I even mailed the pawn ticket to her at Brian's trailer so she could get them if she chose. I figured she would get the ticket in a day or two, so there might be a chance she could still get them if she wanted to. I'm not completely heartless, after all. I called Luke and arranged to return the surveillance gear he let me use. Getting back home, I tore the bed down and put it in the front yard along with the dresser and the nightstands. I put a sign on it saying free. Within a couple of hours, it was all gone. I gathered the rest of the stuff, which included her wedding dress and all the photos that included her image, and carried them out back. I pulled a 50-gallon drum out of the garage and stuffed all the crap inside it, then soaked it down and set it on fire. I stayed with the drum until everything had burned to ash, then made sure the fire was completely extinguished and placed the lid on the drum. I decided to let it stay where it was until it had cooled off enough to move. I went back inside and looked around to make sure I had exorcised everything in the place that might remind me of Sophie. It looked a bit bare, but I figured it was worth it to not be reminded of her. By then it was evening and I was exhausted. So I fried up some hot dogs and watched a bit of TV before going to bed. I slept in the next day, but still got quite a bit done. I opened the windows in the now empty master bedroom to air it out, then grabbed some spackle and filled in the nail holes. I grabbed the carpet shampoo machine and cleaned the carpet as best as I could. It was late afternoon by the time I got finished with all that. I was in the garage cleaning out the shampoo machine when I saw Brian's car pull up out front. I opened the garage door and grabbed a baseball bat I had by the back door. I stood by the open garage door and saw them get out of the vehicle and start walking to the front door. I stepped out and stopped them. "What do you want?" I asked. Sophie looked at me and held up 2 envelopes. "What is this?" she asked. "If I'm not mistaken, those are divorce papers," I said. "Sign them and send them back. I've been more than fair, so the sooner you do that, the sooner we can end this sham of a marriage. And don't fight me on this. I'm prepared to use the whole video I captured of the 2 of you in our bed." "Well, what's this?" she said, holding up a smaller envelope. I recognized it as being the one I mailed to her earlier. "That looks like a pawn ticket. I got rid of your rings. I took a wash on them, but I guess that's just the way it goes. I sent you the ticket in case you wanted to buy them back. I don't want them, and from what I saw, you didn't give a damn about them either. I suspect the judge will probably understand why I did what I did." "You scumsucker," she cried. "Do you really hate me that much?" "Yes, I do," I told her. "What else did you do?" "I got rid of the rest of your stuff, just like I promised," I said. "I gave away the bedroom set, hauled stuff to Goodwill, and burned the rest." "Burned?" she asked. "What did you burn?" "Your wedding dress, any pictures that included you, junk." "You actually burned my wedding dress?" she said, tears falling down her cheeks. "Yep. You want the ashes or something?" She broke down sobbing as Brian held her. He looked at me before speaking. "You really are a heartless scumsucker." "Yeah, I am. Especially when someone I once loved with all my heart stabs me in the back like she did with you. I should warn you, though, she's liable to cheat on you before too long, so don't get too used to having her around. Now get the hell off my lawn and out of my neighborhood." He turned her around and guided her back to his car. She turned to look at me before she got inside. She started to say something, but I cut her off. "By the way, you 2 look to be a lot closer than 6 feet, and neither one of you are wearing masks. Maybe I'd better call the mayor's hotline and report the 2 of you." I pulled out my phone and acted as though I was actually going to call. She sobbed as she got in the car and closed the door. Brian got in and took off, squealing his tires. I smiled and put my phone back in my pocket. I figured she would probably fight the divorce, so I was surprised when I got a call from my lawyer the next morning telling me she had signed the papers and dropped them off at his firm. "So, I got them filed, and we have a tentative court date set for 2 weeks from today," he said. "Fortunately, the court in this county is a lot more technologically advanced than many others, and this can be done online. Since she doesn't appear to be contesting it, I've sent both you and Sophie information on how to access that system. I've also sent a copy of your video to the judge, so he can take a look at it. I have a feeling things will work out well for you." "Thanks," I said before ending the call. About 3:00, I got a call from Olivia. "How's it going?" "I hear Sophie got served," she said. "Yeah, she did. The lawyer called and said she signed the papers and returned them. We have an online hearing set for 2 weeks from today." "Good." "Sophie also told me what you did with her rings and wedding dress." "Yeah, not exactly 2 of my finer moments, but it was something I felt I had to do." "I can understand that," she said. "I actually don't blame you. I would probably have done something similar. So, are you up to having some company for dinner tonight? Actually, I am, I told her. What did you have in mind? Well, I thought I'd make you some of my world-famous lasagna and garlic toast, she said. Think you can muster up some wine? Lasagna. Huh? I asked. My favorite. Yeah, I think I can rustle up some wine. Good. We'll be there about 7:00 if that works for you. I look forward to it, I said. We talked for a while, then ended the call. Afterward, I headed out to grab a bottle of wine, stopped to buy some flowers, then came back and jumped in the shower. I shaved and dressed, putting on a clean pair of jeans and a polo shirt. I saw that I had a little bit of time before Olivia arrived, so I pulled out the good dinnerware, set the table, and placed some candles in the center. I felt a bit like a high school boy wanting to impress his first date. I had just lit the candles when the doorbell rang. I opened the door and invited Olivia in, taking the hot lasagna from her and setting it down on a heat rack I already placed on the table. She put the garlic bread on a large plate I had set out for it. As she did, I took in her dress. She looked absolutely stunning in her short black dress. As she dished out the lasagna, I poured us each a glass of wine and then held out her chair. She smiled sweetly and sat down, giving me a good look. You look every bit as delicious as this lasagna does, I told her. She smiled up at me. Well, thank you, she said. And you look pretty fetching yourself in that polo shirt. By the way, I like what you've done with the place. I don't see anything that suggests Sophie ever lived here. That was the idea. I took a bite of the lasagna and felt like I was in heaven. This is the best lasagna I have ever eaten, I told her. I'm glad you like it, she said. Just wait till you see what I brought for dessert. Dessert? I didn't see that she had brought anything else. I was confused for a second, but then it hit me. Duh, I said to myself, mentally slapping myself on the head. It just dawned on me what she meant, and I smiled at her. Yeah, I got what she meant. After we ate, Olivia helped me clean up the table. After we were finished, she turned to look at me. Reaching up, she untied the dress. It took me a few seconds to realize I had actually stopped breathing. Standing before me was the most beautiful woman I had ever seen in my life. What's the matter? She asked. Haven't you ever seen a naked woman before? Not one as sexy and beautiful as you, I finally stammered. She kissed me deeply. Are you ready for dessert? I couldn't remember feeling anything this good in my life, not even with Sophie. She wrapped her arms around my neck and kissed me deeply. I love you, Adam, she said when she broke the kiss. I've always loved you, and I always will. Please, I promise you I'll be your woman as long as you'll have me. I kissed her pretty face and smiled at her. I love you too, Olivia. I wish to God I'd met you before I met Sophie. She smiled back at me. Me too. There's one thing I want to do, though, she added as she got off the table. Damn right, I said. You want to go upstairs? I thought you'd never ask, she said. We went upstairs, arm in arm, and went into the guest bedroom. The bed was a bit smaller than the one that used to be in the master bedroom, but there was plenty of room for Olivia and me. We were together on that bed for what seemed like hours before finally falling asleep in each other's arms. The next morning, she woke me up. I felt like a new man, and I had this wonderful woman to thank for that. We padded downstairs, and I made some coffee while she cooked up some breakfast. I sat on a stool at the breakfast counter and watched as Olivia made bacon and eggs, wearing nothing. I could get used to this, I told her as I watched her sexy bum. She laughed. I hope so, cowboy, she said, because I intend to do this every chance I get. Seriously? I asked. Yep. You have no idea how long I've dreamed of being with you. She pulled out 2 plates and filled them both with bacon and eggs. We sat at the counter as we ate our breakfast. So, what's on your agenda for the day? She asked when she finished. I have things to finish up around here. I need to start getting the place ready to sell. I have a feeling the court will order it sold anyway, so I might as well get a head start on it. I saw the master bedroom look strange seeing it empty like that. Are you going to replace the master bedroom set? Eventually, but not before I know what's going to happen with the place, I told her. That makes sense. What's on your plate? I asked. Yeah, besides that, I said. Well, I had an idea I wanted to run by you. What's that? I asked. How about I grab a few things from my apartment and keep them here, and I stick around to help you out? That way, You can get the place ready for the market sooner, and we can be together and get to know each other better. What do you think? I thought about it for a moment before answering. I like that idea. We just have to be careful, though. The last thing I want is Sophie filing against me. You're right, she said, but somehow, I don't think that's going to be too much of a problem. I know my sister, and I suspect she's accepted the fact that the two of you are done. But I promise to be careful. If anyone asks, they'll say that I'm here helping you out through a difficult situation. They'll stay at my little studio apartment 1 or 2 nights a week, but the rest of the time, they'll be here with you. I thought about it for a moment before answering. Consider it a deal. Good, she said, giving me a kiss. I want you to know I meant what I said last night. What's that? That I love you, she said. I've always loved you, and I'll always be here for you, no matter what. I'll never treat you the way Sophie did. And I love you too, Olivia, I said, kissing her on the lips. I actually did love her, and I hope this wasn't just a rebound relationship. I'm already feeling better about all this stuff, and it's all thanks to you. She kissed me one more time before standing up. Well, I guess I'd better get dressed and head out. They'll be back this afternoon. Okay, sure. That works. Oh, wait just a second, I added, grabbing my jeans off the floor where they had been left last night. I pulled out my key ring and handed her Sophie's old house key. Just in case I'm not here when you get back, I'll give you her old garage door opener as well, and I'll have to give you the security code for the alarm. After we got all that ironed out, Olivia headed upstairs, threw her dress on, and headed out. The next 2 weeks were wonderful. Olivia spent most nights with me, and she was a huge help, especially after I went back to work. We got a lot done around the place and even painted most of the interior walls. She understood the nature of my job required that I sometimes work late or out of town now and again, and she was perfectly fine with it. On those nights, she went back to her apartment, and we would stay in touch over Skype until she had to go to bed. The most important thing for me was developing trust, and Olivia seemed to sense that without me saying anything. If I had to work, I would make it a habit of letting her know, either with a call or a text. She would do the same if she had to make a run to the store or head to her apartment. By the end of the 2 weeks, it seemed like old hat to us both. It would be an underregiment to say that she went a long way to healing my heart over those 2 weeks. It almost seemed like a pre-honeymoon, and we learned a lot about each other. It turned out we had a lot in common, even in our taste in music. Eventually, the date for our online hearing rolled around. I was surprised that Sophie hadn't tried to contact me during the previous 2 weeks, but I really didn't mind that she hadn't tried to call me. Olivia came by and sat off to the side so she could listen in. I dressed for the online meeting and listened as my lawyer explained what would happen. As he described it, since Sophie wasn't contesting anything, the hearing should be over in about 15 minutes or so. Nevertheless, the judge had allowed for a full hour just in case. Between you and me, I think he likes to take a break in between these things, my lawyer said. Soon, everyone was online: the judge, the bailiff, the court reporter, myself, and my attorney. Sophie, however, was not online. Mr. Harris, the judge said, do you have any reason why Mrs. Clark isn't online? No, Your Honor, I don't, my lawyer said. I sent her an email with the instructions a couple of days ago, but I haven't heard from her. Mr. Clark, have you heard from your wife? The judge asked. No, sir, I haven't. All right, he said. Bailiff, I want you to contact the sheriff's office. Get them out to Mrs. Clark's address immediately. If there's no good reason for her to not be online, have her taken into custody. Yes, sir, the bailiff said. We sat around cooling our heels, waiting for something to happen. Finally, after about 45 minutes, the bailiff returned. Your Honor, I just heard from the deputies who were dispatched to Mrs. Clark's residence. According to them, both Mrs. Clark and her companion were found deceased. The medical examiner has been called to the location. I see, the judge said. Thank you, bailiff. Mr. Clark, it appears your petition for divorce has been rendered moot by your wife's untimely death. I'll wait until I get the official word from the medical examiner before I officially close the case. In the meantime, please accept my condolences and the condolences of the court for your loss. Thank you, Your Honor, I said. It felt strange, but I wasn't sure what else to say. We signed off, and I turned to look at Olivia. She looked back at me with an expression of shock and sadness. Oh my God, she said quietly. Adam, I'm so sorry. I can't believe she's actually gone. Yeah, me neither, I said, trying to wrap my head around the news. What do you think happened? She asked. I have no idea, I told her. Maybe they killed each other. I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait for the official word. I just don't know what to think right now. I understand, she said. What will you do now? Well, I guess I'll have to wait and see what happens. But I guess I'm now a widower. Yeah, I guess you are, she said quietly. I need to call my attorney and let him know what's going on, I said. She nodded her head. Why don't you come over to my place after you call him? Okay? We can figure out what to do after we hear more about what happened. I called my attorney and let him know what happened. Well, that's going to make things interesting, he said. I have to close the case, of course, but I'm guessing you'll be in touch with her family? I guess so, I said. They'll let you know what's going on. Good. Please keep me in the loop. They'll be in touch with the court about closing this case. Thanks, I told him. After ending the call, I went to Olivia's place, and we hugged. I felt strange, knowing that Sophie was gone and there was nothing more that needed to be done. I still needed to contact Bill and Linda, her parents. I dreaded that call but knew I had to make it. I called and explained what had happened. Oh my God, Linda cried. What happened? I don't know, I said. All I know is that the deputies found her and Brian dead. Do you know when we'll be able to see her? Bill asked. No, sir. We'll have to wait for the medical examiner to finish. They'll let you know as soon as I hear something. Thank you, Adam, Bill said. Please keep us in the loop. I will, I said before ending the call. I turned to Olivia and told her about the conversation. We discussed the matter, and she suggested that she would accompany me to the funeral home when the time came. That's a good idea, I said. I appreciate the support. The next day, I got a call from the medical examiner, telling me that the autopsy had been completed. I was surprised when he explained that both Sophie and Brian had died from the virus. Both had developed massive pneumonia and succumbed to the disease. I see, I said. Are you planning to have a funeral service for her? The medical examiner asked. I hadn't really thought about it, I said. Her parents might want to have a service, though. According to region law, we have to cremate the bodies of those who died from the virus, he told me. They'll be sending you the death certificate along with her ashes once we're finished with that. It'll probably be in the next week or so. Okay, thank you, I said. I called Bill and let him know what I had been told. Thank you for letting me know, Adam, he said. I know this hasn't been easy for you. No, it hasn't, I said. But I'll let you know when the death certificate arrives, and we'll take it from there. In the meantime, please let me know if you need anything. I will, Adam. Take care of yourself, Bill said. After we ended the call, I sat down, feeling the weight of the news. Olivia came over and sat with me. It's hard to believe she's really gone, I said quietly. I know, she said, but we'll get through this together. The following week, I received Sophie's death certificate and ashes. I called Bill and Linda, and we agreed to hold a small memorial service at their home. It was a somber affair, and I could tell that her parents were struggling with the loss. After the service, I gave them the ashes, and they thanked me for everything I had done. I know this has been difficult for you, Adam, Bill said, but we appreciate all you've done. Thank you, Bill, I said. I'm just glad I could be here for you. After the service, Olivia and I returned to my house. It was strange, knowing that Sophie was gone, but I also felt a sense of closure. I knew I could now move on with my life, and I was grateful to have Olivia by my side. In the weeks that followed, Olivia moved in with me permanently. We continued to work on the house, getting it ready to sell. Eventually, we found a buyer, and I was able to move on from the memories that had haunted me for so long. Olivia and I began a new chapter in our lives together, and I knew that, despite everything that had happened, I had found someone who truly loved me. We made plans for the future, and I felt a sense of peace I hadn't known in a long time. Thanks for watching this intense story of betrayal and heartbreak. Life can take unexpected turns, but how would you handle a situation like this? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more stories like this.